Welcome back to CTV Morning Live. We are once again with Brenda Hollingsworth from OJ Hollingsworth, a personal injury lawyer. 789-6559, extension 2803 is the number you want to call. You can always find us on our email and our Facebook page as well. We were briefly talking about some of the do's and the don'ts, especially some of the mistakes that you see. We hit on a couple with a motor vehicle, but there's also a couple of errors with the slip and falls that you want to let people know about as well that they make.
Yeah, sure. One very big mistake you can make, if you slip and fall, especially if it's on municipal or government property, you must give notice immediately to the municipality. So what you do, you write a letter to the clerk of the city, you just drop it off at City Hall if you need to. Just say, I had an accident at this location, and it protects your rights. There is something in a statute that says you have a 10-day notice period. It's not something you can never get around, but why would you want to have to get around that? So you must give notice that you had an accident, a slip and fall at a location. And if you're not sure if it was, if it's the store's property or the city's property, give notice anyway, and we can sort it out after.
You'll figure that out.
That's right.
The only thing you need to know is that you've fallen.
Right.
And I remember too, you were saying, listen, if you have your phone, a lot of us do, take a picture of the surroundings. That also is a huge help.
Yeah, that's right. When people call us and they've had a slip and fall on municipal property, we tell them, hang up, give notice to the city, call us back. And we actually only give a consultation if you do it.
Really?
Yeah,
that important?
It's really important. People have lost their cases because they haven't given that notice.
Okay, interesting information. I do want to get to a caller that we have right now. I do believe Dan is on the phone. He's from Gatineau. Good morning, Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
We're good. All right, what's your question for Brenda?
I had gotten in a car accident years ago, and I was pressured to settle. People kept saying settle. So I did, but my doctor told me I'm going to be paying for it years later as I get older. Is there any way that I can, go back on them? Or is there statute of limitations, something like that?
Well, a couple of questions sort of rolled into there. And I'm not sure if you mean your tort, so your claim against the at-fault driver or the accident benefit claim. Either way, generally speaking, if you've settled, you've settled. So if you sign off on a release saying that you're accepting money in exchange for having your case over, generally speaking, you can't go back except for in very exceptional circumstances. It is more likely to be able to go back on your accident benefit settlement. It's very difficult, and I'm not saying that you should assume that you can do that. Sometimes you can. Your claim against the at-fault driver, very rare to be able to reopen that.
Okay.
And the statute of limitations that you're asking about, that refers to the period of time in which you have to start a lawsuit. Once you've settled, and the statute of limitations doesn't really apply. We've talked about this other times. Generally speaking, for most cases, the limitation period to start a claim in Ontario is typically 2 years. There can be exceptions. Children typically have until their 20th birthday. There can be exceptions. So that's what we're talking about when we say statute of limitations. But typically, if you settle, you settle.
No, I'm listening to this. So for Dan, so he settled in terms of what that settlement was, but there's a slight chance. I mean, if this is something you want to pursue, and if there's been a lot of changes in terms of the medical, what's happening with his health, that it would be the insurance company. Is that where you're?
Well, I mean, you'd probably want to consult a lawyer. There's not a lot of lawyers who are going to engage on trying to reopen a settlement because it is so risky. It's generally not something lawyers will do on a percentage basis because, unless there's something egregious, right? Unless there's something that's happened in your case that is like fraud or something like that. It is really hard. I mean, one of the big mistakes that I like to tell people is settling your case before you know the full extent of your injuries. Sometimes people get quite upset with us because the cases take a long time, and I tell them, I can't settle your case, I can't recommend a settlement number until I know what your prognosis is. What is the future going to hold for you? Because if I do, you're going to end up like Dan, where you settled for too little and your injuries are going to continue long term and you're not going to be compensated for that. So that's why the process takes so long.
And interesting too that the doctor had said, listen, there's probably more to come, with this. He goes, you may be doing yourself a disservice. So interesting information coming from both sides right there. Hopefully, Dan, we were able to answer your question. If you have a question, please let us know. We do have to take a commercial break, but we are here to answer your question. 789-6559, extension 2803 is the number you want to call. As well, over the next couple of minutes while we're in a commercial break, you can always email us or find us on Facebook. And if you just want to call the office directly, all the information is listed right there. Their email, of course, Brenda's website, www.askbrenda.ca, is very resourceful. There's a ton of information on there as well. And they are located at 1443 Woodruff Avenue.